Wow, this is absolutely amazing. I never thought in my lifetime that I would be on the same stage as someone as amazing as Nicholas Negroponte. It's a true honor for me to be up here. I've been very fortunate to visit the Media Lab, I think 10 or 15 times in my life, and it's a truly amazing place, and to see the very tangible expression of some of the things that Mr. Negroponte has been able to achieve is truly inspiring. One of the most inspiring things that I've taken away from my time at the lab is just arranging for serendipity, the idea that the best ideas come when you're making those very serendipitous connections. Las Vegas is a very interesting place when you think about serendipity. I was very unserendipitously separated from $600 just Monday night, but I've been truly inspired to see all the serendipitous connections that are happening here in the crowd, in the audience, as we had breakfast together this morning. And I just want to thank all of you again for making the effort to come and spend this time with us. And I think it truly is very, very powerful when we get lots of people together in the same room and we're making those connections. And we really do have the power coming out of this week to make a real impact on what we do every single day. So with that in mind, I've got about 30 minutes. There's a lot of stuff that I want to talk to you about. I'm going to try and do my best to condense it down. There's going to be a lot of stuff. If you have questions afterwards, please don't hesitate to find me. But the three big areas I'm going to talk about is the digital economy. We've already heard a ton about the digital economy and the pace of change that's happening as we move into this more digital way of working. Also, just the human economy, just the fact that we now have to start thinking about consumers differently. We can't think about them as consumers. We have to understand them as people, as humans, not consumers of brands and products, but as actual people. And we have the ability now to do that more than ever. And then building experiences and how we can use media to tangibly build experiences for consumers. I don't mean these huge consumers, but just connecting the dots for them as they go from inspiration to purchase, and how we can do that. So one of the things that I think is absolutely critical as we think about the digital economy and what we're dealing with today is that performance media can maintain that baseline of success during these great times of transition. One of the things about the digital economy is that we're immersed in change. Things are changing much faster than we ever thought. Today is the slowest pace of change now. It's only getting faster and faster. And the great thing is that day in, day out, we're continuing to drive those business outcomes for our clients. We're continuing to achieve those KPIs, and it's critical as we think about all that transition. But at the same time, performance is no longer enough. As we look at the digital economy, it's no longer enough for us just to drive performance for our clients. As Jeremy said this morning, we don't want to ROI ourselves out of business. We have to pull our head out of the dashboard occasionally and look at the horizon and see the things that are happening in our category, see the things that are happening as media changes, see the things as people are changing, as habits change, and then build plans that have that long-term success in mind. All the time continuing to drive those ROIs. And that's because the challenges we face are greater than they ever have been. If you look at 50% of the top 100 advertisers today are not growing, or they're going backwards. They're going backwards. And that's because the barriers to new businesses are lower than they ever have been. It's easier than it ever has been to start a new business. The pace of disruption is astounding. The ability to scale is easier than it has been. You can scale a business at almost no cost. And Moore's Law, that speed is going to continue to happen. Things are only getting faster and faster. The speed is going to double year over year or every 2 years, depending on the product that you're thinking about or the category that you're talking about. It becomes very clear that the future belongs to the fast. That speed and agility, our ability to remove friction from our processes, becomes the key to success. It's something we talk a lot about at iProspect. How can we remove those frictions from the things that we're doing every day for our clients so we can get to market faster, so that we can make optimizations faster, so we can change our strategies faster and be closer and closer to real time. The other thing, and this is incredibly optimistic, one of the things that was so cool about this morning is that there is this real sense of optimism. That in all this time of change, that we can do it. There is going to be good things that come out of that. And one of the really cool things is that it's easier than ever to reinvent and build new channels of success. It's the same reasons why startups are having the success they are. We as businesses can apply. That low cost is really, really powerful, and we can start using that. And the impact of risk is as low as it's ever has been. So there's almost a bigger risk in not taking those risks. We have to take those risks because the platforms exist. We need to start using those platforms, whether that's machine learning and AI, whether that's the commoditization of cloud platforms, and how can we start using that to get closer and closer to real time. The integration of apps and apps talking to other apps is an incredibly powerful tool for us. We have to start using it. And that proliferation of connectivity, as more and more things become connected, we have to start tapping into those things, and we have to start building those platforms into all of our strategies. It was interesting, as I was working on this presentation, I was thinking about just that pace of change, and just as a point of illustration, at the end of 2016 or 2015, there was 915 different ad tech companies in the world. 915. That seems like a pretty huge number of ad tech companies to me. Already in this year, there's over 1,500. So the pace of change in our industry is astounding, and it's only getting faster, and we have to continue to maintain that pace of change. And we have to start thinking about turning those legacy assets, the things that we have that new businesses don't have, into an asset, into a powerful advantage for us. I debated about putting this slide in there, and I almost thought about taking this slide out, because when everyone talks about the power of Uber and the power of Airbnb, and those are certainly threats to legacy industries, but we have so much more, and we have to start thinking about how we're using all those assets to our advantage as it applies to performance marketing. But we also have to do the same thing at iProspect. We have to think about and reevaluate how people are moving through the world. Is it really awareness, consideration, purchase? Does that funnel still hold true? Do we need to start thinking about and reinventing new ways around how consumers go from inspiration to purchase? And do we need to start thinking about that in new and very different ways? So I want to make sure I'm giving you stuff that you can kind of take away. For us, it really comes down to three things. When we think about the digital economy and the disruptions that's happening, the things that we're doing to drive success, one is driving that transversal thinking. We have to start thinking more transversely across channels, across brand, across performance, because making those powerful connections is what's going to continue to drive our success. I say this every year that I'm up here, but it's more true now than it ever has been. Understanding people is more important than ever. It's only going to get more important. Our ability to understand who customers are, what they're passionate about, what they're motivated by, the cultures they participate in, the rituals and traditions that they are participating in is critical to driving success, because by leveraging that knowledge, we build those truly powerful connections. And then we have to start building experiences. That's the only way to continue to drive engagement in the digital economy. We have to create those experiences where customers are moving from one media touch point to the other in a very seamless way, and they're getting the right messages, answering those very specific questions at the right time. So just starting with transversal thinking and what we mean by transversal thinking, I have not been in a meeting where someone hasn't asked what it means to do a good job in mobile. And what does it look like to win in mobile? It comes up in every single meeting. You've probably had some sort of a mobile conversation already today. When you think about mobile, you can't think about mobile as just a device. You can't think about mobile as just a channel. You have to think of transversely across all those mobile touch points. And if you're not doing a good job in any single one of those touch points, you're losing in mobile. So you have to start with your apps and know what's happening with that app. Do you have a mobile designed app? Does it have a purpose behind it? Obviously, mobile search is incredibly important to the mobile experience. You have to be doing a really powerful job in search to make sure that you're answering those very specific questions that happen on mobile. SEO is huge for mobile. If you think about the mobile results page, SEO plays a huge role in that. If you're not optimizing to make sure that your locations are showing up, you're not doing a good job in mobile. And the last thing is native, and Mike alluded to it. Display on a mobile device isn't the best experience yet, and native, we're seeing incredible results in native. So now you're starting to see how we're thinking transversely just across mobile to really start to drive those greater results. But it's not just within the media channels. We have to drive integration across performance, across brand, across all of the channels that we touch. We have to start making this happen. The line between above the line and below the line media is continuing to blur, as the digital economy continues to grow, that blurriness is only going to increase. And so we have to be thinking about how we're driving that level of collaboration. One of the greatest skills I try to imbue on my team is just that sense of openness, that willingness to collaborate, because that's when the best ideas are going to happen, and that's where we're going to start to drive that success. We can no longer live just within performance. We can no longer live just within search. We have to bridge out and make those really powerful connections across all media channels, across both brand and performance, and that's where we're going to start to see success and also bring speed to the process. Then the last thing in thinking about transversal thinking is really just the way we have to think differently about how people consume media and how people consume content. When I first started at iProspect 3 years ago, Jeremy and I sat down and we talked a lot about there's so much complexity in the marketplace. How do we take some of that complexity out of it? How do we simplify it so that we're going to market in a really effective way, but that drives that level of consistency? And we started thinking about that there was 4 kind of buckets that people consume media in. There was the communities that you participated in, whether that's through Facebook or other social platforms. There was content that you consumed, whether that was on your mobile device or your television or as you were in the real world. And there was commerce. In commerce, everything we wanted to make sure that we were driving back to commerce. And the other bucket was just the real world. As you move through the world, you're reading magazines or watching television or seeing out of home. And we wanted to make sure that as we were planning media, we were putting things in all of those buckets. That level of convergence is only accelerated, and we're seeing even a much simpler approach to how consumers are approaching media. It's really about just the content you're creating and how that content, as that point of engagement and transaction gets closer together, leads to commerce, and then the tech and data platforms that you're using to be really intelligent along those pathways. But also, how are you achieving that from a CRM and a programmatic standpoint, creating those really powerful customer experiences? So as you're thinking about thinking transversally, just 3 things that to take away. One, it's incredibly important that we make those connections within and across channels. 2, connecting below the line and above the line media. We have to start driving that integration more than it's more important than ever that we're driving that level of integration, and that we're also connecting those platforms and delivery mechanisms, that we're making those connections between what we're using to send messages and the messages that we're sending. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about, of course, understanding people. And when we think about understanding people, it's really important for us. But it's no longer just about people, it's also about machines. Machines are becoming more and more human, and we have to take the same approach to machines that we took to consumers, trying to learn everything about them so that we're best performed to, when we're eventually marketing to machines, be successful. So bear with me here. I'm just going to go through some stats that kind of help illustrate this point. It's not a surprise. There's 3.3 billion smartphone subscribers in the world today. There'll be 5.5 billion by 2020. That translates to about $5 trillion in the e-commerce market. 52% of all online shopping now happens on a mobile device. That includes tablets. That doesn't mean they're necessarily buying a device. We see very low rates of purchases actually happening on devices, but there's a lot of the shopping happens within a mobile device. People are certainly using their phones and tablets to do a lot of the research that they would normally do. When we think about mobile devices, almost a third of our media time, over a third of all media time is spent on a mobile device. When you think about a population of people that are spending almost over 24 hours a day with media, a third of that on a mobile device is an incredibly astounding amount of time. 60% of all adults are tracking their routine in some way, so tracking their steps, tracking their exercise. 35% of that are actually tracking what they eat, what their blood pressure is, what their heart rate is, tracking some more of those advanced functions. The average iPhone, I think everyone has heard this, is unlocked 80 times a day. So 80 times a day you're going into your iPhone. And to me, what occurs is that we are all becoming cyborgs. We are all becoming more robotic. And as people, we're becoming more like machines. I can't, if I'm more than halfway to work without my phone, I'll turn around and drive back to get it. I couldn't leave my hotel room this morning. I left my phone back there, and I'm already feeling sort of the ghost vibrations in my pocket, even though that I'm up here in front of all of you. We are becoming more machine-like. And the output of that is that there's more data available to us. And it's more important for us than ever to use that data for good. We're starting to do that. 60% of advertisers, this is from eMarketer, are using that data for better campaign targeting. So we're being smarter about who we're targeting. We're personalizing our content. Almost 50% of people, of marketers, are using data to personalize their content in some way. But that's only half. That's only half the people in the room are doing that. The amount of data available to us is incredible. And we have to start using that data right now to be smarter because as we think about where the world is going, we're at a very interesting place as we move from programmatic media to addressable media to authenticated media, where we're actually having those conversations with that one person, where we're really starting to have that one-to-one conversation. I think it's funny that this person is actually reading the newspaper. It's kind of an antiquated notion, but it won't be long before we're suddenly having those truly one-to-one conversations with people. And if we're not building the structures now to start having those conversations, we'll fail when consumers are actually expecting that and really wanting that. The great thing is, as data becomes that currency of business, everyone knows that the value of their data. That usable data is hitting critical mass. The challenge we face is that critical mass lives in lots of different places. It's all over the world, and it's a challenge for us to gather that all together and make those really important connections so that we're best positioned to have those one-to-one conversations. For us, I think the really exciting part, and also the somewhat terrifying part, is that we have access to a lot of that data. And when we think, when I'm talking to the strategy team, for us, it becomes really looking into three different things. Starting with that historical performance, understanding everything that's worked, everything that hasn't worked. Where are the white space opportunities to get a sense of what consumers are expecting from the brand, and then combining that with industry insight. The really cool thing is that we're getting so much better at data. We have great conversations with our partners at Google. We have really exciting conversations with our partners at Microsoft or Yahoo about all the data that they have, and they're making it a lot easier for us to start to pull actionable insights out of that data. And we combine that data with what we know about what works, it becomes really, really powerful tool. And then the last thing that we have, and I talk about this a lot, but it's an absolutely amazing tool, is CCS. And the cool thing about CCS is that it allows us then going in and having a really good idea of what's working, having a really good idea about what's happening in the category, what's happening with consumers. We're then able to really see then how these consumers move through media. What are they doing to move it from inspiration to that purchase? And what are the things that we can do from a media, what are the levers that we can pull from a media standpoint that make those really powerful connections? We recently just completed a recontact study. So we actually went back. CCS is a survey that goes out to over 350,000 people around the world every year. It goes out to 35,000 people, or almost 40,000 people now in the US. We sent them another survey that asked them a lot of specific performance media questions, and the insights that we're getting out of that are incredibly powerful, especially when you combine that with all the data that we already have. But that's just people. The other really interesting thing that's happening is that machines are becoming more human. Maybe not at the rate of change that we thought, but machines are becoming more and more human. A lot of people are talking about, a lot of our partners are talking about bots and the things that are happening with that, but 41% of adults are using voice search every day. 41% of all adults are doing some sort of a voice search. If you look at other segments, that sometimes is a little bit more than that. There's I think 15 bots available now. There will be 44 bots before the end of the year available in Facebook Messenger. So starting to have those conversations with artificial intelligence. There's a personal assistant called Clara. She costs $500 a month, and she'll manage your calendar for you. So you just copy her in emails, and then she'll handle the whole conversation as you look to schedule a meeting. Pretty expensive at $500. I wanted to sign up, but at $500, I'm not. Seems like quite a bit. And we all know that Echo is one of the top sellers on Amazon. I think just looking this morning, I don't have one. I obviously would love to have one, but it's sold out through the middle of May. So one of the continuing top sellers. So that we're changing the way we're starting to have those conversations. Just really quickly on the side here, this is an illustration of the Turing test. Alan Turing was an artificial intelligence scientist in the 1950s, and he developed this test by which you would understand how quickly a bot is a human. So you would have one person having a conversation with two people. One person would be real, the other person would be a robot, and it was all input by text. And so as part of that, they would test how quickly that person realized that one of the persons was not human. One of the persons was a robot. So I was thinking about messengers and thinking about this test, so I actually had a conversation with a weather bot. I asked the bot, what will the weather be today, and he or she responded in cat, purr, which was kind of confusing. I kind of had a sense that maybe I wasn't talking to a human, but I was wondering if I was talking to a cat, was it a robot? So then I asked, when will it rain? It responded in English, what do you mean? So I was like, was I not clear? So I clarified a little bit further, what time will it rain? And it responded in French, excusez-moi. So now I was really confused. And then I clarified even further, what's the percentage chance of rain today? And the response was wet, warm, yuck. So even though artificial intelligence is really, really powerful, it might not be where it needs to be yet. And I think it's a really interesting thing that we need to continue to explore. And just as we think about people, we need to start thinking about machines, because we know it's incredibly important. Our partners are investing a lot of money in artificial intelligence. We know that while it might not be where it needs to be today, very quickly it's going to be a huge part of everything that we're doing, and it's going to enable us to be much smarter about how we're buying media, how we're optimizing that media, and how we're having conversations with consumers. And as we look towards the future, the interesting thing is that 63% of households are currently using 2 to 4 connected devices now. That might be a connected TV, that might be the Echo, it might be a connected thermostat, but 63% of households are having are using connected devices now. And as homes become more and more connected, we will continue to outsource more of those cognitive functions. We've already outsourced a number of cognitive functions to our phones. We've outsourced our memory to Google. We're continuing to cede some of our civil liberties and let algorithms start to make decisions for us. And as our homes become more and more connected, we're going to continue to outsource those cognitive functions. So it's really, really important for us to start to understand how AI is starting to make those decisions for us. Because looking towards the future, by 2030, there will be 1 trillion connected people and things in the world. And you can imagine at that point, there's going to be a lot of conversations that are happening through artificial intelligence. And so we think about the rise of Messenger and the changing interfaces that we're using to have those conversations. It becomes really important that we start to understand that machine learning. So in conclusion, just thinking about understanding people, we need to begin organizing now for that segment of 1. We need to start preparing ourselves now to have those conversations on a one-to-one level in real time. In order to do that, we have to understand people, machines, and we have to start examining those changing interfaces. As we've all seen the importance of visual search and the impact that that's had on search. We have to start thinking about text and the types of conversations people are going to be having with artificial intelligence, because we're going to be able to measure all that and deliver ads and responses to those questions in real time. It's an incredibly powerful tool for us. So the last thing I wanted to talk about today is just that experience economy and the importance of experience in everything that we need to do. So interestingly, if you look at the world around us, Facebook is actually the largest country in the world. There's 1.4 billion people active on Facebook. That's a pretty astounding fact. That's a huge number of people. And if you think about our ability to communicate with all 1.4 billion of those people and to tangibly change behavior, it becomes a really, really powerful tool. But interestingly for us is that people are connected to more people in more ways than ever. And that's had a huge impact on how we consume media and how we think about brands and products. If you think about the world 70 years ago, rule books and religion and other things told us the things that we should believe in, the things that we wanted, that we should buy, the products that we thought were good, the things that we should buy. As we moved, post-television and advertising became bigger and more important, brands became more important in shaping the way our beliefs and our experiences. And now it's other people. If 10,000 people say a hotel is great, that hotel is great. If 10,000 people say a restaurant is really good, that restaurant is really good. And that's the way that we form beliefs, and that's had a huge impact on the consumer journey. It's interesting, the consumer journey is something I've personally struggled with a lot, just thinking about it. And everyone says the journey now is nonlinear, and I could never quite wrap my head around that. It's kind of an interesting idea that this journey would now be nonlinear. But when I started thinking about it, it really is linear. There is a beginning. There is a beginning point, there is an end, and what's happened to the journey is that the middle has become incredibly complex. I read somewhere recently that there's 56 touch points, media touch points, as someone goes from inspiration to purchase. That doesn't include social, so when you think about all the social conversations they're having about a brand, that becomes incredibly powerful. And so the real challenge we face isn't necessarily what does the journey look like. Is it nonlinear or linear? It's how do we manage all that chaos that happens in the middle? And we've started to do that. Our response to managing that chaos is just to flood it with more touch points. We're just hammering people with information. We're sending 2.8 million emails every second. We're uploading 60 minutes of content to YouTube every second. There's 2 million blog posts every single day. And so our response to the chaos that's happening in the middle is just to add more messages to it. But also to start sharing and telling deeper stories. This is an example from a brand in Brazil that I just read about last week. They actually personalize their logo. So every single person that comes to their site gets their own logo. Every single person. A unique logo just for you. But we are starting to tell those deeper stories. We're sharing more visual content with consumers. We've seen the impact of PLAs on search. That photography becomes huge, and we're starting to tell those stories. Video is incredibly important to us, but at the same time, we're still just continuing to flood the world with more content, and we have to be more intelligent in how we do that because there's more tools for consumers now to start blocking that content. 200 million people are using ad blockers right now, maybe more, depending on who you ask, because they're feeling inundated with content. And so we have to be smarter about the content we build. The interesting thing to me about this as I was looking at this is that the interest in ad blocking is going through the roof, but the interest in do not track is remaining relatively flat. So people are more and more willing to share the data with us. They're more and more willing to tell us and let us see what they're doing and what they want to see, but they just don't want to see irrelevant content. They want to see things and they want to have experiences across media that add value to who they are and what they're talking about. So for us, we have to start connecting media. And it's a simple thing. Just making sure that we're telling the right story as someone searches from a mobile device. Just reading those intent signals and connecting that through media allow us to tell those more impactful stories, to tell those deeper stories. Understanding the social signals that they're giving us, and making those relevant connections within media as people go through the journey allow us to add value to their lives, to make things easier for them, to make it simple for them, to give them access to things that they need at that specific moment. And those are the experiences we can start and have to start building through performance media. Because ultimately, no matter how much data we have, we want consumers to love us as brands. And the best way for us to do that is to make their lives easier. Whether that's through innovation and creating new products, whether that's through empathy, by using the money that we have to change their communities, to make an impact on their life in some really valuable way. And we have to start using performance media to make those stories. Right now, we're doing that now, and we're connecting those signals, but we have to get better at it. So just wrapping this up, as we think about the experience economy, Experiences now are how people build those beliefs. We have to be creating those experiences. Simple, very simple things can have a huge impact on the journey. When we think about how crazy the middle of the journey has become, very simple things as that point of engagement and transaction come closer together can have a really big, tangible impact on the journey. And then empathy and innovation can create those new forms of value. And we have to think about understanding people, understanding the things they care about to create those new forms of value. So really quickly, you can vote on all of our presentations. If you liked mine, please vote me up. If you didn't like it, just don't vote. We're very competitive, so I want to make sure, obviously, I beat Jeremy and the other presenters that are up here. But again, that's what I have. If you have questions, I'll be here for the next couple of days. Thank you again for the opportunity to come and speak with you guys today. I hope you enjoy the rest of the afternoon. I think you'll start to see some of this stuff come up as we move through the content this afternoon. So thank you.